There is one more week of regular season action of the NFL. Week 18 is coming up. We've got plenty of weird things to talk about today as well. We will get through them though. Turf and Touchdowns podcast is now here. Luke Elder alongside Tom Collins. And this is a super mega episode, Tom. We're going to go longer. We're going to go bigger.
Yeah, we are. Just the one podcast this week. Everyone's used to at least two NFL pods, but with there being no Thursday night football due to the festive period and the fact it's the last week of the regular season, just one big podcast, loads of tips coming up in this next, 35, 40 minutes, let's say. Please stick around and make sure you watch it all. If not, there is a roundup section at the end if you want to just place your bets quickly. But we would advise you listen to the reasonings behind the picks. How was your New Year's? How was your Christmas? I am still dealing with a cold and an illness, if you cannot tell.
I was going to say, my Christmas was lovely. We didn't really do much on Christmas Day. Then Boxing Day, we did our whole family Christmas Day sort of thing.
Nice.
Really nice. Everyone was healthy. There was lots of drinks. There was lots of food. It was good. New Year's was fine. I trust you were healthy over the festive period.
For Christmas, I was. Boxing Day started taking a turn for the worse after watching the UK racing. And then, I don't know what happened for the next 5 days. New Year's, just a quiet one. So a bit different. But also, I imagine we both kind of had that same thing where we watched a lot of sport. Racing, football, NFL, all into one.
Normally, myself and Tom, we text more than the average couple. But over the festive period, it was more radio silence. It was every now and then, oh, that was good, yeah. And I just assumed it was, well, we're spending time with our families. We'll respect the boundaries. And then Tom was like, yeah, I almost died.
Yeah, I was on death's door for a little bit. So there was that. But yeah, we're back. I would say we're back and healthy. We're not. But we're healthier and we're ready to go with more winners this week.
Yeah, and with libations, that's drinks, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because even though I sucked last week and did not do very well at all, still got the play of the day in, and so did Tom. So we'll get out of the way early. The final regular season play of the day victory sip with myself and Tom. I think we've both gone water.
Yeah, we're both boring. Well, I'm saying mine's illness. You're just boring.
Yeah, Tom normally just goes for questionable looking fluids, but play of the day victory sip done. I say the last one. I guess kind of if we both land it this week, that'll count, but we're not in the regular season. I don't know. We're getting through to the playoffs. We'll work it out as we go along. Let's tell you about our sponsors who are still here. Good job, guys. SBK. If you haven't downloaded the new app already, go do it. You get £40 in free bets when you place £10, and also for this Sunday and the weekend, which is going to be needed because there is so much football on this weekend. You get a 25% ACCA boost on NFL matches. If you like my selections, TC selections, your own, it doesn't matter. You put them in an ACCA, you get a 25% boost, and there's plenty of football to do that with as well, Tom.
Yes, click the link down below. There's a link in the description. Click that. Sign up to SBK. It takes 2 minutes max. Just need your name, basically some details. Sign up, create the account, take advantage of the offers. Even if you're not necessarily going to want to take advantage of the offers this week, it's just great to have an SBK account as just an extra kind of way you can play your bets. And when they're offering 25% ACCA boosts on the NFL, this is the last chance to do it, by the way, week 18. When they're offering that, you've got to take advantage. So go and hit that link down below, sign up, helps us out, also helps you out, and also helps SBK out. So it helps everyone.
I mean, hopefully it doesn't help SBK out.
Well, they get a new customer,
Yeah, I hope, though, that someone puts on an accumulator, costs them millions, and that's it.
Well,
and then someone else can come in and just sponsor us and back us. That would be great. But for now, we're friends of SBK.
Yeah, let's hope the guys in the marketing team didn't watch that 10 seconds right there.
I don't watch this. You will suck. I don't watch it. Right. Let's do What on Earth. It was that segment just there. My What on Earth this week is going to be short and sweet, but What on Earth, all of the Indianapolis Colts. Every single one of them. Less so offense, but defense. You've been a good defense for a long time. And this year you had sort of been working your way into being not elite, but hard to play against, we'll say. A team that you didn't want a fantasy player to play against. Until the Giants turned up. And the Giants then looked like they were Super Bowl contenders because Drew Lock passed for 1,000,000 yards on you. Malik Neighbors did everything that he possibly could when he wanted. It was just ugly. The Indianapolis Colts last week sucked. And this is coming from a guy who took the spread, Indianapolis minus 7.5. And it's not as if you were like locked and you were fine. You needed to win that to make the playoffs. That's you done now. Bye. That's your whole year done because you couldn't beat the Giants. Not even a case of couldn't beat them. You got whooped by the Giants as well. Absolutely appalling. See you next year, Indianapolis Colts. Tom, rescue.
That was brilliant because you were getting more and more annoyed during that What on Earth. I think everyone enjoyed that 30 seconds. I did anyway. Look, I have no What on Earth this week, but instead I've got a P&L update for everyone. And this isn't
Oh
a
no.
Tom v Luke thing or a Luke v Tom thing. This is a kind of what we've done throughout the year because generally, we fire out 10 to 12 tips every Sunday between us, and we have Thursday night football as well. And people who are probably watching this for the first time or have been watching us for a chunk of the season are thinking, are these guys even profitable? We have no reference behind that. Well, we are. I did the P&L I've lost track of days, but earlier this week. And the good news is we are both in profit throughout the whole NFL season so far. Going into week 18, Luke's firing in a 3% ROI. I'm firing in a 9%. Both very good figures. If you don't know ROI, return on investment, it's a much better bearing than point staked victory. And yeah, I mean, we're doing really well here at Turf and Touchdowns Pod. We fire in on Twitter celebratory tweets every time a winner goes in, and people are probably thinking, well, that's marketing. But generally, throughout the course of the year, we have been profitable to follow. There is one little star here, and this is a Tom v Luke thing. I am winning this season. There's 1 week. There's 1 week to go. You need to get your game sorted this week, and you need to try and pick me up. And also, you have the added pressure. I'm going to do a little spoiler alert here. You've got 6 tips in this podcast, right? We
Correct.
talk about 1 point level stakes victory or level stakes bets as we go throughout the season. If you go 0 from 6, you're in big trouble of going in that loss margin. You need to stay in the green, mate.
I'm going 6 from 6. It's fine.
You did say that earlier in the week.
I'm going. I said to Tom last week, it doesn't matter. I'm going for 6. I'm going 6 from 6. It's cool.
Confident. I like
it doesn't. Honestly, it doesn't matter. 6 from 6. Check it. It's absolutely fine. The first one's going to go straight down and be like, all right, well, 5 from 5. It's Sunday we're talking about. But on the topic of being winners, I would just like to do one thing.
Go on.
Because I was looking for a crown, but you are looking at a fantasy football champion.
Yeah.
A fantasy football champion.
Yeah.
Commissioner, champion.
That is true. You are a champion. I have to admit, you're not the champion of the Dynasty League. You are a champion of the redraft.
That one doesn't matter.
It's like a half win.
Is there money on that one?
On the Dynasty? No.
Yeah.
Is there money?
No, we pay money to be in this one. We pay money to be in this one, and as the crown dictates, champion. Right.
Wait. I'm gonna take. I'll give you congratulations. Well done for winning that league. You were dominant throughout the whole year as well. You did look like you were always going to win, and well done. What I will say quickly is, you said to me just before we came on this podcast, "Oh, I had a prop for this week, but I've lost it." And I was thinking, God, this could be absolutely anything. I thought it would be related to the fantasy league, but didn't know what it was. Then you said the words, "But I found our old one." Now, why have you got 2 of those?
Now, great question. Alfie, my little boy, he does music theatre, and he was Zeus in one of the latest things. We bought a Zeus outfit, lost it, found it, but we adored a new one. So I did get the new one out of these, but then I don't know where it's gone. I just lost it. It's somewhere. But then I found the old one. So I'm now wearing a child-sized Zeus crown like every champion does.
It's the highlight of the whole podcast. Let's get on with it. And you're keeping that on for the whole pod, right?
Until I get a headache. Right, let's go on to the first one. This is real small. You don't understand how small this is. Like, I'm expecting my head to just go out the top like this. Let's go into the first selection. The first selection is me with one of the Saturday games, the Cincinnati Bengals, who are taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. This isn't necessarily a pro Cincinnati thing. Cincinnati must win to stand any chance of getting into the playoffs. Now, the annoying caveat for them is they also need Denver to lose. Denver are playing Kansas City. Kansas City are resting like all their starters. So it's unlikely. However, Cincinnati just have to go out there and win. They have to go and do their thing. I know the Steelers are a team that have surprised plenty this year. I think they've completely gone off the rails, the Steelers. The last few weeks, they've looked absolutely terrible in almost all facets of the game. Whereas the Bengals, they just seem to be getting stronger and stronger. Obviously, last week against the Broncos, they put up a real good effort in a game where they rather controlled it for a large part of things. But I just think the Bengals are getting good at almost the right time. They've been healthy this year. I was talking about them before the season as well. We are waiting basically for another week because Jamar Chase, I put up as the NFL league leader. There we go. In receiving yards, he's currently 130 clear of Justin Jefferson. So unless something crazy happens, he's going to land that. But Joe Burrow's been good as well. The defense have been better, but they were dreadful to start with. So being better than that isn't exactly much to brag about. But the Bengals have just looked good. I think the Steelers, I think the wheels have really come off. They need to change things over the off season going into it to next year. Obviously, we haven't seen the last of the Steelers yet this season, but I don't expect too much from them. The Bengals are 10-13. They are -1.5 in the game. I was going to go for that, Tom, but it's the Bengals. I'm just happy for them to win.
Yeah, exactly. The Bengals can be a bit hit or miss on defense, so I could certainly understand that. I do want to re-clarify what you just said there. Re-clarify is not a word; just clarify would have done. This is a Saturday game. I've also got a selection in this game, but this is Saturday, not Sunday. All the remaining picks are on Sunday. So if you are watching this on Sunday morning or afternoon before the NFL, skip through this bit or just check how we've done. But I've also got a selection in that same game, and it's kind of on the same lines actually. I feel like if yours wins, mine will win, and vice versa. My pick is going to be Joe Burrow over 2.5 passing touchdowns. Now that's 13-8. 13-8. I couldn't believe it. This is the first time I've put up a bet like this actually all season long. A QB with a passing touchdown over under. I think this game is going to be pretty good in terms of from a neutral's perspective. I think there's going to be lots of points. They're going to go back and forth. I initially was looking towards the Steelers for player props, the likes of Pat Fryermuth, who generally does pretty well against the Bengals, or Jalen Warren, who I think is kind of trending towards being RB1 with Najee Harris kind of falling off a little bit. However, I just realized that the Cincinnati Bengals pass attack is undoubtedly the angle here. There are numerous reasons. Number one, they have to win to make the playoffs. You've already said that. Number two, Chase Brown is hurt. He got hurt on the final play of the regular time last week, I think it was, before going to overtime. He may play in this game, but if he does, he's not 100% and he's not going to get the same workload. Number three, their RB backups are shocking. So if Chase Brown doesn't get the same workload, they're not going to be running the ball very often. Number four, they're going to put the ball in the hands of the guy they trust, Joe Burrow. That is certain. If they need to win this game, Joe Burrow is going to be the guy to do it for them. And number five, Jamar Chase is chasing, as you say, the record this season. So there are lots of reasons to suggest the Cincinnati pass attack is going to be extremely good on Saturday evening. I like Joe Burrow over 2.5 passing touchdowns. That means he needs 3 or more. If you look at his recent games, in his last 8 games, he's had 3 or more touchdowns. Why is it 13-8? It makes no sense. Give me that. I think that's great value.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Joe Burrow will have another big game. Look, he's been good all season. I saw a point made that Joe Burrow should be MVP.
Look, I think he's top 5. I really do. I think he's had a great year, but Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen have been a little bit better for me. But still, look, Joe Burrow has been phenomenal. I think his touchdowns to interception ratio this year is something like 42-9. And he has won the games for the Bengals. I know Chase Brown's been great, but it's been Joe Burrow that's done it.
Yeah, I mean, that said, it does make a bit of a mockery of the MVP.
It does.
I said this at the start of the year because I think did you put up Lamar?
I did, yeah. I think he's going to lose, by the way. I think Josh Allen's going to win.
Well, the problem for this is that it's someone's opinion in the bet. It's so annoying in that Joe Burrow has played good enough to be an MVP in the NFL. However, because his team aren't winning, and he's been let down by his defense, he's not in the MVP candidate story. I mean, people have been saying Sam Darnold for MVP. Sam Darnold's been good, but get out of here. Yeah. Not a chance. Let's move on to someone and a team that are absolutely not the MVP, and they haven't been for quite some time.
That is just mean.
What?
Go on.
The Green Bay Packers.
Horrible man. Horrible man in a horrible crown. That's what you are.
Wrong? That's jealousy, loser. Right. Josh Jacobs is a guy that I quite like. However, the Green Bay Packers need to sort out their way of using him because everything is Josh Jacobs at the moment. But for this bet, give him everything. I don't care. Josh Jacobs over 63.5 rushing yards. That's 10-11. The Packers need to win this game to seal the number 6 seed, with Dallas also beating Washington, which is a touch unlikely. But if they get the number 6 seed, such an easier game. Otherwise, they're probably going to play Philly, which is not something that you really want to do with Jalen Hurts, I'd imagine, back to full health. But I do think the Packers take this game out against Chicago. Chicago are bad on the ground. We've said it all year. They've never improved on that side of things. Josh Jacobs is the number 1 choice in this offense. So many times this season, we've put up a player on the receiving side of things, or just the Packers overall. And they've just wasted so much time on the clock running the ball with Josh Jacobs. Yes, it works sometimes, but it's not everything. Playing from behind, you don't need to run the ball with Josh Jacobs a lot. I don't think they're going to be in that predicament in here. He's gone over this line in 9 of his last 10 games. That's massive for Josh Jacobs. I don't think it's a high line at all of 63.5. And Chicago, as I say, they continue to struggle against the run. They have allowed over 4 yards per carry against the leading rusher of the opposition in 4 of the last 5 weeks. The only guy that didn't do that was last week, Zach Charbonnet. He still averaged 3.8 per carry, and that game was just devoid of any offense. It was absolutely grotesque from start to finish. And Josh Jacobs has done this before as well. I think actually I put him up last time as overs on the rushing yards and also touchdown. He had 18 carries, 76 for 1, and also he added 4 catches through the air, 58 yards. He was very involved against Chicago in Week 11. I think he's going to be even more involved this time round. Honestly, Tom, I'm surprised that this line was so low of 63.5. I thought this could easily be a high 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, I don't hate it at all. Jacob's going to get a good workload, and we will win that game. The Bears are rubbish, so we're going to beat them. The only reason I didn't put up a bet in that game was because of my awful record with the Packers this season. I'm literally pulling up stumps on it. I'm 1 from 5 in 2024 when betting on a Packers player, whether that be a prop, whether that be the team to win, whether that be an over-under. Just shocking with the Packers. And the Packers money line was my only loser throughout the festive period as well. So, yeah, I am just done. I'm like, okay, Packers, go and do your thing. I'm happy to watch you, support you, but I'm not betting on you anymore. But I wish you the best with Josh Jacobs. He should cover. I'm going to stick with the running backs.
Just before you get on to the next one, I'd just like to I'd like to say a few thank yous. I'd like to thank my mum and my dad. This title means a lot. To be number 1 in the fantasy league, it's a tough league. We went at it hard from the get go. We were good on waivers, and I just couldn't have done it without you. So appreciate it. Thank you very much. Tom, sorry, back to you.
Just a horrible bloke. Right, sticking with the running backs, Bijan Robinson is going to be the next player for me. Selection number 2, and first one on Sunday, actually. The line is very high. It's 94.5 rushing yards, but I'm taking the over here at 10 to 11. The Falcons are playing the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers played really good football for a period in the middle part of the year, middle to end of the season. And then last week, pre-week 17, decided, well, we don't want to win any more games. So we're just going to put Chuba Hubbard on IR, despite the fact he doesn't need surgery. And he was playing perfectly fine. We're going to basically just stop playing on defense. And we're just going to let Adam Thielen do as much as he can and then not do anything else. So that's what the Panthers are currently doing. If they do that again, which is highly likely, they're going to lose this matchup to the Falcons, who could still make the playoffs with a victory and a loss for the Bucs, I think it is. Mm-hmm. If Atlanta are going to win, they're going to need Bijan to do stuff on the ground. He's going to. He's the best running back in the league, in my opinion. Now, I know everyone's going to say Saquon. Barkley's in a better team. And look, I think they're very similar kind of players. But Bijan, for me, is a slightly better and more dynamic player than Barkley. They're virtually the same, but I just prefer Robinson. As I say, he needs 95 plus yards to win this bet for us. He's having a great end to the year. He's gone over 90 rushing yards in 6 of his last 7 games, which is obviously not 95, but it's similar to what we need. He also had 95 yards exactly on 15 carries when they played Carolina earlier in the year. So there's a lot that indicates Bijan's going to be able to cover here. And yes, the line's high, but Carolina cannot defend against the run. So give me Bijan Robinson over 94.5 rushing yards. That's going to be my second play.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't love it. At the same time, it's just a very high line, isn't it?
It is. And Tyler Algier doesn't help. Like, there is a chance that Algier gets in if they go up big early, but I still think Bijan covers here, surely.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Like you say, targeting Carolina is a very smart thing to do, but unfortunately, bookmaker lines have managed to cotton onto that as well. Go for something a little bit more assured, please.
You've already gone for one team to win on the money line, so I'm going to put up one as well, and that is the Buffalo Bills money line against the New England Patriots. They're 4-6, so it is a shorter price than we usually put up. We always tend to go for the 10 to 11 kind of options, but I still think Buffalo are a good bet around 4-6. Now, look, I understand they're resting all of their starters. Josh Allen's going to start the game and then come out probably after the first series. They're going to rest a load of players on defense, but they're playing the Patriots. The Patriots are rubbish. They suck. They've currently got the number 1 overall pick. They're not going to try and win this game either. I literally don't care if they play their starters and Buffalo are playing their bench players. Buffalo's reserves are better than the Patriots starters in most cases. Maybe not Mitch Trubisky over Drake May, but still. Look, I hate Trubisky. I really do hate him with a passion, but I still think he's going to lead this team to win. Buffalo on the road, they have a couple of players with big incentives in their contracts as well. So, look, I think Curtis Samuel's going to have an okay game. Keon Coleman, I think, is going to have a good game at receiver. And at running back, Ray Davis and Ty Johnson, they've been doing pretty well when James Cook's not been playing recently. So I still think there's points in this offense. The Patriots aren't good enough to score loads on Buffalo anyway. So give me Buffalo money line at 4-6 with the backups. I think they'll win this.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Why do you hate Mitch Trubisky? Like, jawline too good?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's got a lovely action man kind of looking face. No, it's the Chicago Bears kind of era. Bears quarterbacks, they just get me. Jay Cutler being one, and Mitch Trubisky being another.
How about Justin Fields?
See, I didn't mind him because he wasn't really a quarterback. He was kind of a running back in disguise.
Oh, that's fine then. That's such a workaround, you coward. The Bills to take out their game against the Patriots. If you are more of a passive NFL fan, by the way, that's great. Love you being here. Some of these lines will look very funny to you. The reason for that is because a lot of teams that have guaranteed themselves everything they possibly could, they got nothing to gain from this, i.e. a better spot in the playoffs or a stronger position. They're just going to rest their guys. There's no point in sending them out and getting them injured. We saw it with the Raiders a few years ago. Derek Carr was having a fantastic season, went out, played his final game, broke his leg late on in the game, and that was the season done for the Raiders there and then. The Chiefs are resting guys, the Eagles are resting guys. There'll be no Saquon Barkley this week. The Bills, there'll be a lot of teams resting their players. So if you are having a bet, do just take a look at that, and that will answer as well why the Broncos are 10-point favourites against the Chiefs. But we move on to something we haven't done for a while, actually.
Go on, do it.
It's time to joint play.
In a crown, spectacular.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
did you watch the WWE during that kind of Triple H era?
Yeah, what you mean, Triple H, the King of Kings?
Well, I was going to say you look more like William Regal, which, you know, he's English. He kind of looks a bit like you.
The thing I liked about William Regal is that the announcers always used to go, grew up on the tough streets of Blackpool, England. It's like, no. But my grandparents used to go on holiday to Blackpool. Like, just because you say they're tough doesn't mean it's tough. No. Blackpool's an old person's place.
That's classic US stuff. But you do look a little bit like William Regal with the crown on.
I'll take it. William Regal was a tough dude.
Tough. Went to Blackpool.
He grew up in Blackpool. They grew up tough there. Let's talk about incentives, because that's something that's going to come in massive in this, and also probably in the betting or in your betting needs this week. There are incentives in the NFL that are written into every single player's contract. If you get this amount of catches, if you get this amount of touchdowns, if you get this many yards, we will pay you this, this, and this. Now, a lot of players going into the final week, they have their eyes on it. Sometimes the team's got nothing to play for. Justice Hill was a guy that I was looking at from a few weeks out. He needs 8 catches to trigger like a $500,000 bonus. And it's big money. It's a lot of money. So it's worthwhile having. I'm not sure Justice Hill is going to play this week. But if he does, maybe they just pepper him with targets and they get him over the line. It's something as well, Tom, that the players want, but your teammates also want it for you. And the coaches generally want it as well. Just as a thank you. Good job this season.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like a player's just going out there and trying their hardest to make their contract worthwhile for them. Mm-hmm. The team understands. The play callers, they understand as well. It's basically a thank you, as you say. And we've got a joint play here that should count as an incentive pick. There is a little caveat that when we come to me for my part of the analysis, I'll put in there. But Mike Evans is the dude.
Exactly. Is the caveat like the horrifying 6.5 yard discrepancy?
Yes.
It's a bad one, isn't it? It's a bad one. Yeah. So the Mike Evans yardage line is now 92.5 receiving yards. That's very high, but he's had 10 straight seasons of 1,000 yards or more in the NFL. He's looking for 11 straight. It's a big thing been made of it. I don't need to tell you about it. But Mike Evans needs 5 catches and 85 yards to trigger $3 million worth of incentives. That's so far, it is 70 catches and 1,000 yards. He's 5 and 85, or 5 catches, 85 yards away from that. He hasn't been over this line. This is a great stat, by the way. Against New Orleans, Mike Evans hasn't been over this line in the last 11 games against New Orleans. Nice. However, this is a different matchup because normally he gets into a big old fight with Marshawn Lattimore. Yeah. Marshawn Lattimore's gone. He's in Washington. So this is a different game. There'll be no one there trying to fight him. He'll be okay. He'll just stay in the game. And recently, he has been the entirety of this offense. I thought Bucky Irving would go crazy last week. Bucky Irving had a very good week. But even when they got down to the 1 yard line, they were still passing it to Mike Evans. It was very much a Mike Evans orientated offense. He's had at least 8 targets in 4 of the last 5 games and over 100 yards in 2 of them and 97 yards in another as well. And just a quote as well. We talk about teammates wanting things for their own guys. Baker Mayfield's quotes, "If we win, Mike's getting that record." And another quote, "I'm thinking about it more than Mike is." Baker Mayfield is going to target the beep out of Mike Evans. He's going to get the ball so many times. We've seen it happen in Tampa in recent years as well. There was a viral clip went around of Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski a few years back where Gronk was going, "I need one more catch for $1 million." And Tom was like sitting on the sideline. He was done for the game. He was out and he goes to Gronk, like, "You need one more catch." "All right, I'm back in." So he literally goes in for one more play, throws it to Gronk for like a yard, and they come off celebrating because they've got $1 million. It happens with players. I think it's going to happen with Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans. Granted, 92.5, Tom, that's a bit more than one catch, but Mike Evans has been dominating recently, and I get the feeling he wants this bad.
Yeah, you've said a lot of my reasoning as well. It's basically on the incentive. The fact he's been playing really well recently, and yeah, this streak of 1,000 yards. It's not like he needs to get to 850 yards, and it's a one-off season. 1,000 yards for this prolonged period in a whole career, 10 years straight so far. I mean, it's phenomenal. He's going to do it. There is no doubt in my mind that if he stays healthy throughout the whole course of the game, he's going to make the 85 yards he needs. The line is 92.5. So as I say, the discrepancy there is that the horrible fact is that he could end with 88 and we don't cover, but he gets his incentives, which kind of ruins the whole part of this play. But I'm with you in the joint play. Mike Evans over 92.5 receiving yards, 10 to 11. One last thing I'll mention. Previously, he's had this kind of conundrum in the past. It's not like a one-off where he always kind of makes 1,000 yards by week 16 and then just plays out the last couple of games. In 2017, he needed 54 yards in the final regular season game. They targeted him 13 times and he got 55 yards. In 2020, he needed 40 yards in his final game and he got 46. And in 2021, he needed 54 yards and he got 89. This is a guy that it happens for him regularly. 1,000 yards isn't a low number. It's quite a high number for a guy like Evans. And I think they're gonna get him the ball a lot. I wouldn't be surprised they target him between 10 and 15 times. And he should be able to get a 100-yard game, which equals a victory for both of us.
It'd be great if Baker Mayfield could just throw a bomb to him early on and just get like a 93-yard touchdown in. That would be perfect for us. But Mike Evans, I think we'll have a big week, and obviously they need to win as well, the Bucs. So it's not a case of they're just going to get Mike Evans the ball. They're going to throw to him because he's their best player, quite simply. Moving on from the joint play, Tom, you're going back to the new Super Bowl contenders of last week that downed the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, the New York Giants. This is the final pick of the 6 p.m.s, I think, and then we move on to talk about some of the 9:25 p.m. UK time bets that we're going to have, and then the primetime game at the end. Malik Neighbors is the guy I'm targeting. Last week, he was phenomenal. I understand the Colts were shocking, but Neighbors was great. His yards after the catch were brilliant. He was putting on moves that we saw way back in week 2 or week 3 prior to his concussions. And he looked like Neighbors was just Justin Jefferson standard last week. His line this week is only set to 67.5, which is surprising. I thought it'd be a lot higher than that. So I'm taking the over, 67.5 receiving yards at 10 to 11. They're playing the Eagles. Now, generally, I wouldn't want any kind of player prop against the Eagles because, they've got Mitchell, they've got DeGene, they've got CJ Gardner-Johnson, they've got Darius Slay. They've got too many good players in the secondary. But as you've already talked about, the Eagles are going to rest a lot of players. Upwards of 10 players, apparently, they're resting this week. You did mention Barkley's being rested, by the way. I don't know if that's actually going to happen because he needs 100 yards to break the all-time rushing record. So I think he may actually play. But the likes of Jalen Hurts, etc., out.
It was announced last night on Bleacher
Hmm.
Report that Saquon is resting on Sunday.
That I feel like that's a bit of a howler from the Eagles. I don't know about you. I mean, this record has been set. Well, it's been there since like the 1940s, I think. And
It is, but Saquon, he's to be fair, normally he's, I want to say humble. That's a really bad word to use because he is a really humble guy. We've seen that time and time again, but he doesn't care about stats like this. We saw it earlier on in the year where he was going for his personal best stat in game. And he said, "Oh no, let the young guys go out." He needed like 15 yards. Let the young guys go out, do their thing, and one of them managed to get a touchdown. I can't remember who it was. For this one, he wants it, and he said, "Look, I don't know when I'll get another chance to do this, but I want to do it." But then, as well, Saquon Barkley, for a player of his caliber, Tom, we've seen awfully little of him in the playoffs.
yeah, that is true. He has had injury issues and he's been on a poor team. So, there've been a mix kind of against Saquon. I understand why they're not going to play him. I think he should play to try and break the record because it's not something that's easily breakable, the number. But anyway, the Eagles are going to rest a lot of players, and I think that will include players on defense like Mitchell and DeJean for at least part of the game. If that happens, Neighbors is just going to be wide open. This season, by the way, here's a stat for you. Neighbors is averaging 11 and a half targets per game over the course of the whole season, not just a stint. That is phenomenal. He's basically the whole offense for New York. If he gets anything like 11 targets in this game, he's covering 67.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I agree. He's been absolutely incredible as Malik Neighbors, and the Giants have a chance to get the number one pick. I don't think they're that fussed about it, to be honest. No. I think they're okay getting whoever they get, but that's Malik Neighbors, Tom's latest pick, who so far among rookies has been nearly number one for the entire year. Do you know who else, Tom, was number one?
Go on.
The fantasy football team of Bijan Mustardson, who were first place. They went 10-4 in the regular season, did a great job. I say loads of good work on waivers. They spent their fab wisely. They played the matchups as they came, and they made it into the final. Managed to get the dub. And it wasn't even an easy dub either. It was a late one. Bijan Mustardson, we never give up. We played till the end. We were down 10 points going into the final 4 minutes of Monday Night Football. And then Jahmyr Gibbs cracked a big one, found the end zone, got us to first place. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Good job, Bijan Mustardson. We'll be back next year to defend our title.
You have no shame. Carry on with the podcast.
All of these, by the way, are my 7-year-old's props. I have not bought any of these. They were found in his playroom. So, but that is the final one. But yeah, I appreciate it. Good season. Well done, guys. My next selection is going to be a guy who has gone rather underrated, I'd say, this year. He's a player for the Denver Broncos, not Bo Nix. He's been fantastic, but we've generally got the Broncos right on this podcast so far this year. Courtland Sutton has been very good. His line is currently 64.5 receiving yards. That is 20 to 23, so touch shorter on a pricing perspective. But we're talking of incentives. Courtland Sutton needs 82 yards to trigger a $500,000 incentive for going over 1,065 yards. The Chiefs, as we've said, they're resting key players. The Broncos have this as a must-win game. If they win, they're in the playoffs. If they don't, they're possibly still in, but they need Cincinnati to lose, I believe it is, on Saturday. Courtland Sutton has had less than 8 targets just once in the last 9 weeks. Bo Nix as well. In the latest game, he only managed 31 passing attempts, 24 completions, despite playing from behind. It was an odd game where Cincinnati just seemed to have the ball for the entirety of the game. They give it to Denver, they score quick, and then Cincinnati would take it back for another 10 minutes. But Courtland Sutton still found the end zone, and he had multiple attempts as well in the end zone. He remains Bo Nix's go-to guy. That's even with Marvin Mims having a massive game last week. Courtland Sutton still out-targeted him, 9 targets to 8 targets, and those two were clear in the team. So Courtland Sutton over 64.5 receiving yards. I'm hoping that he'll do that quite easily and trigger his incentive for that $500,000. And I'm pretty sure, Tom, with the Chiefs resting players, that we're going to see the Broncos in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so as well. Courtland Sutton's actually had a kind of a year where he's got back to his best. He's always been a good receiver, hasn't he? But he's gone missing in games. It's like last year, if you had him in fantasy, one week he'd get 20 points and the next week he'd get literally 0. and then 4, and then 25. He was very inconsistent with his kind of production. But this year with Bo Nix throwing him the ball, Sutton's just really come to life again. And he looks a really good receiver right now. They've got some good offensive weapons as well. I don't think this will be the one-off year that the Denver Broncos make the playoffs. I think we'll see them next season as well. With that defense and the likes of Troy Franklin, Vele, Sutton, and loads of running backs as well, I think we'll see them there regularly.
Yeah, they do need a running back, though. They need a standout running back. But
yeah, they either need to get one or they need one of the 3 right now to really take that step forward, which isn't beyond the realms of possibility considering they're all young guys.
Yeah, or there's like a million running backs in the draft that's coming up that a lot of them look quite good. But that's Courtland Sutton. I'm going to move on to my next selection as well. I've only got 2 more left to go, including this. Tom's got 1. But a few weeks ago, we targeted Davante Adams, and Aaron Rodgers targeted Davante Adams as well. We wanted him to find the end zone. He managed to do so. We're going to do exactly the same once again. 7-5 is the price for a Davante Adams anytime touchdown. He scored 5 touchdowns in the last 5 weeks. He had a week off in the week just gone by. He scored a couple about 3 weeks ago. But he's had no less than 8 targets in that 5-game span, 13 targets inside the 10 this season for 4 touchdowns. He's clearly Aaron Rodgers' go-to, guys. This could be Aaron Rodgers' final game. He said that it might well be the case that happens. If it happens that A, it's Aaron Rodgers' final game, B, it's Aaron Rodgers' final game with Davante Adams, he's getting a touchdown to his mate Davante Adams. He's going to be targeting him left, right, and centre. Garrett Wilson, he's not happy. He might be out as a Jet next year. Potentially, he's going to hand in a trade request. The Jets are screwed for the years to come because they've traded away their future for not much. Whatever. For this week, as long as Davante Adams gets a touchdown, we're absolutely fine. The Dolphins' defense, they're not elite either. They're okay, but they're not a defense that you'd be running scared of. They allowed no touchdowns last week, but they're against Cleveland and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Cleveland is just a mess, and they're trying to finish as high as they possibly can, or as low in the draft as they possibly can for the season upcoming. But they allowed 5 receiving touchdowns in the 3 weeks building up to that. That included 1 to Davante Adams 4 weeks ago. I think Davante Adams finds the end zone once again. I think we get a ton of red zone targets. And Tom, at 7-5, I quite like Davante Adams to possibly end the career of Aaron Rodgers on, I'm not going to say a high because it still sucks, but something nice.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it happened at all. And I think you're 1 from 1 with Adams touchdowns this year. Am I right?
Yeah, it's not much to brag about, but I could say 1 from 1.
Don't say that. Okay, I'm going to move on to my last selection. That is probably my least confident pick here, and I hope you're going to come in with some confidence at the end because it involves your team. The Seattle Seahawks v LA Rams. Initially, I did want Brock Bowers receptions in this role, my 6th pick, but unfortunately that market's not available. So I'm going with the Seahawks Rams over 38.5 total points at 10-11, which I think is the line's just too low. The Rams have played in low-scoring games recently. I mean, the last 3 games finished 12-6, 19-9, 13-9, hardly enthralling. The Seahawks only beat the Bears 6-3, hardly enthralling. However, I expect a different kind of game here. I think we'll see more offense. Unfortunately, this game doesn't have that kind of playoff, are they going to make the playoffs, are they not going to make the playoffs feel because of the tiebreaker. But when these two teams played earlier in the year, they combined for 800 total yards. It's not like it was a defensive battle in a game that finished 26-20. I think we're going to see a similar kind of performance here from both sides, whether the game finishes around 24-21 or whatnot. I think as long as it covers, I think it will cover 40, which is good enough to win this bet for us. Don't care who wins, to be honest with you. As long as it stays close enough that both offenses need to fire, I'm happy with that. So give me Seahawks Rams over 38.5 total points. Do you think this is going to be slightly more offensive based than Seahawks last game? I mean, that game against the Bears was shocking.
I fell asleep in it, so
awful.
It was dreadful. Seattle are going to be trying as hard as they possibly can. Look, we've got nothing to play for. We're out of the playoffs. It's whatever. Geno Smith needs 186 passing yards to cash in a $2 million bonus, and he also gets, I think, an extra million or $2 million if Seattle win. I think it might be 1 million now because Seattle are out of the playoffs, but it is at the minimum $1 million if Seattle win this game for Geno Smith. He's going to be slinging the ball everywhere. And watch out for Jackson Smith and Jigba as well. I know this is saying nothing that's too left field. But JSN, I think, needs 5 catches to be the Seahawks' leading most receiver in a season. I think it's something like that. But Tyler Lockett came out and said that he's really pulling for Jackson Smith and Jigba to do it. They're aware of it. They know that it's a thing. Unfortunately for JSN, you're not going to, well, you're very unlikely to get the line of 4.5 receptions for the over-under. It's probably going to be 5.5 or 6.5. So it's trickier to bet that. But I don't mind it. If we don't win, I'll be disappointed, but also who cares? The season's done. It's fine, whatever. Let's move on to the final selection of the... I would say it's Monday night. It's not. It's Sunday night, isn't it?
Sunday night, yeah.
Yeah, Sunday night football. Justin Jefferson, I think, will have a big game against the Detroit Lions. Look, quite simple. It's a heck of a way to end the regular season. You win, you're number one, and you manage to win the NFC North. Is it you're in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's Detroit or Minnesota. Detroit are banged up. They might be getting 1 or 2 people back this week, but Minnesota have to win the division. The Detroit secondary, as I say, is beaten up. They were dreadful against San Francisco. They were so bad. I know Kirby Joseph picked off Brock Purdy twice. Both were terrible throws by Brock Purdy, which brings me on to my next point of the San Francisco 49ers should really give him a $60 million 10-year contract. That would be a really good thing for the San Francisco 49ers to do, and I fully endorse that. But there are a few players that could potentially come back. I think likely they're probably not, because they're still in the playoffs. Regardless of what happens, Detroit is still in the playoffs. Alex Anzalone has been fantastic this season. He's had his 21-day window open from IR. He's not sure to return. There are 1 or 2 other guys that might come back, but they need so much more. Say that Detroit were terrible against the pass last week. Brock Purdy passed for just under 400 yards. And Justin Jefferson as well. He's had double-figure targets in the last 3 weeks, 14, 13, and also 11. He achieved 81 yards on 7 catches against Detroit in week 7 as well. They were far healthier then. It was the week after I think Aiden Hutchinson got hurt. There were plenty of other guys, though, that were still around that aren't around now. I think Justin Jefferson is going to absolutely crush this line. Over 89.5 receiving yards. And also going into this game, we will know how far behind Jamar Chase is compared to, or for what he needs to become the NFL leading receiver on the year. I don't think he'll get it because I think he'll be facing almost 200 yards in this game. But over 89.5, I quite like that. That'll be my final selection of 6 in this rather small but very busy window.
Yeah, very busy window. What a final game, by the way, of the whole season. Like, it's a great way to end the NFL in 2024, the regular season, that is, before we go into the playoffs. Probably the 2 best teams in the NFC fighting it out, or at least what we've seen so far anyway, fighting it out for the number 1 seed and a bye. And the other team has to go into the wildcard spots. I mean, it is brutal, but it is going to be a great game. And secretly, I hope the Lions do win that game, just purely because I think they've been the best team in the league, really, the whole NFL. But as you say, they're banged up. So it could be a real great game on both sides. Like, it could be 30-34 kind of game again, and that's what we want to see.
We'll move on to our selections. Just in the selections part, if you missed any of the incentives that we were talking about earlier on for players, go back, look at them. Look for Mike Evans and look for Cortland Sutton as 2 of the main ones. But a few other incentives just to mention. Tony Pollard for the Tennessee Titans. He needs 83 rushing touchdowns for $250,000 and 2 touchdowns to cash another $250,000 as well. He takes on the Texans, and we've also got Zach Ertz. He needs 2 touchdowns for $250,000 and 9 catches for the same, 90 yards for the same as well. And there was one more, J.K. Dobbins, I wanted to tell you about. J.K. Dobbins needs 58 rushing yards to cash in $150,000. He's obviously missed a large part of the season, but he could be back as the main guy against the Raiders. And his rushing line, I don't think it'll be that high. So it could be in and around the 58. He had 135 rushing yards in week 1 against the Raiders. So that's a few incentives. Tom, I will let you go first on our selections and our final regular season selections of the year.
Yes, brought to you by SBK. And please, before I provide the selections, our roundup pick, I know quite a few of them will be, quite a few people will be skipping ahead to this exact point just to see the selections rather than the analysis. Please, can you subscribe? We've done a job throughout the whole year providing selections. So just whack a subscription, kind of click down below. There's a box on the right-hand side of the screen. There's also a big red box down below. Click that. We're looking to get towards 450 and then hopefully 500 by the Super Bowl. So please do it. It is really great. We are grateful if you can do that.
And we are around all year as well. We don't stop here. We don't stop
Yeah.
in the playoffs. We don't stop at the Super Bowl. We're going to be here all year. It'll be down to one podcast per week. We are aiming for anyway, potentially more depending on the time of the year. But there'll be draft. There'll be look backs in the season. There'll be looks forward. There'll be rookie analysis as well. We will be here for the entirety of the year. So stick around on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. We have you covered.
Yes, exactly. Right. Now it's time for the roundup. 6 picks from both of us, but obviously these are just my own. Number 1, Joe Burrow for the Cincinnati Bengals. Over 2.5 passing touchdowns. That's on Saturday evening, not Sunday. Saturday evening. That's at 13-8. If that was on Sunday, that might have been my play of the day, but I don't want to peak too early. Selection 2, Bijan Robinson for the Atlanta Falcons. Over 94.5 rushing yards. That's a 10-11. Falcons play the Panthers. Selection 3, give me the Buffalo Bills money line against the New England Patriots. That's a 4-6. Nice and simple. Selection 4, Mike Evans, part of the joint play with Luke as well, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Over 92.5 receiving yards at 10-11. That is very incentive-based. Skip back in the video, as Luke's already talked about, if you want to see why we think that's going to happen. Selection 5, over 38.5 total points between the Seattle Seahawks and the LA Rams at 10-11. The line's just too low. And selection 6, and the final play of the day of the regular season for myself, is Malik Neighbors for the New York Giants against Philadelphia Eagles. Over 67.5 receiving yards at 10-11.
I am going in with 6 and 6 winners this week. Assured. Cash it. The Bengals money line against the Steelers, 10-13. I think they'll just beat the Steelers. I'll take them straight up. Mike Evans as part of the joint play, over 92.5 receiving yards, our final joint play of the regular season. Cortland Sutton over 64.5 receiving yards for the Denver Broncos. That's a 10-11 as well. We'll go Devontae Adams as well to score a touchdown at any time. That's at 7-5. And then in the late game, Sunday Night Football, Justin Jefferson over 89.5 receiving yards. That is the win and be number 1, effectively, Minnesota Vikings against the Detroit Lions. And I've not mentioned one, so that must mean that the play of the day is Josh Jacobs to go over 64.5 rushing yards. That's at 10-11. And Tom did a massive smile then when I play of the day to Green Bay Packer.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to hopefully you having a little bit better luck with the Packers than myself. And you always kind of leave that bit up for debate, because we have a WhatsApp group where we put our selections in literally just before we do the podcast, so we can link it all together, or Luke can anyway. And you never put play of the day on there.
I like the surprise.
I never know where you're going with the number 1 pick. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I just like keeping Tom on tenterhooks or whatever. I'm not sure. But that's the Turf and Touchdowns Week 18 preview. Thank you very much for everyone being with us throughout the course of the season. It's been so much fun recording these for you guys. We're going to be doing so many more when the playoffs come around, which are literally only a week away. So we're back next week doing exactly that. And I would imagine a horse racing preview as well. We're not far away from the Pegasus World Cup. That's at the end of January over at Gulfstream Park. But Tom, well done for making it through and keeping your voice.
Thank you. Well done, Fantasy Champ. You can take that crown off now. It's probably absolutely got your head in bits, but well done. And next year I'll get my revenge in that Fantasy League. Don't you worry.
Look at the line. Look at the line. That's how tight it was.
The pain for a champion to wear a crown on a podcast.
Oh, honestly, guys, thank you very much. Appreciate you watching. Until we next get to see you, goodbye from Turf and Touchdowns. See you next week.
You forgot your outro, which is brilliant.
I did. I'm just so happy to be a champion. Stay safe. Look after one another. Goodbye.